Admiral Jack Morrison stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, gazing at Earth as it turned slowly beneath him. From here, the planet looked almost fragile, a blue marble adrift in the dark. Peaceful. Quiet. For 2 centuries, humanity had lived like this, traders, explorers, dreamers beneath the watchful eyes of the Galactic Confederation. Ships from 100 alien species came and went each day, docking alongside human vessels at the station. To an outsider, the scene was one of harmony, worlds sharing trade, culture, and stories. The galaxy congratulated itself on its civility. And humanity, grateful for its place among the stars, played the role expected of it, peaceful, curious, harmless. Jack was commander of Earth's defense fleet. Yet most aliens whispered that his fleet was nothing more than ceremony. Weapons were heavily restricted. War was considered barbaric. The Confederation permitted only energy-based arms, carefully standardized, neatly contained. Humans obeyed. They had no choice. But Jack sometimes wondered, if the galaxy trusted humanity, why chain them with so many rules? Beneath the icy crust of Titan, far from curious eyes, Dr. Lisa Carter pursued the question more directly. She worked in a sealed laboratory buried under miles of frozen rock. Her specialty wasn't physics or xenobiology, but history, the forbidden kind. She studied fragments of old Earth conflicts, battles fought long before first contact. Across her screens flickered the weapons of ancient humanity, crude projectiles of steel and lead, chemical warheads that could shatter armies, tactical doctrines designed to outthink enemies rather than overwhelm them. The Confederation had buried these records, insisted that humans forget them. They had claimed it was for humanity's own good. But Lisa always asked herself, why? Other species had fought wars. But their battles had been strangely uniform, plasma beams and energy shields, duels fought within predictable limits. Humanity's past was different. Messier. More brutal. And, in some ways, far more effective. That difference terrified someone enough to erase it from history. On the colony world of New Texas, Captain Ryan Brooks patrolled beneath a bright afternoon sky. The colony sprawled across green hills, its cities orderly and safe. Children laughed in the streets. Energy shields shimmered faintly in the distance, reassuring everyone that danger would never reach them here. Ryan's patrol ship was armed with a standard energy rifle, lightweight, precise, humane. It could stun or kill depending on the setting. It was the same weapon used by every military force in the Confederation. But sometimes, when Ryan held the rifle, he felt a strange hollowness. It was too clean, too perfect. He dreamed, though he could never explain why, of heavier weapons. The kind that kicked against your shoulder when fired, that roared with thunder instead of humming with light. Those weapons were long gone, consigned to Earth's forgotten past. Or so he had been told. At the Confederation's capital world, Ambassador Helen Grant listened patiently as another trade council dragged on. Around her, alien delegates argued about tariffs, borders, and star lanes. To them, humans were polite newcomers. Useful, but always kept at a distance. Helen had learned to read the subtle gestures in their speech, the tones they tried to hide. The aliens smiled at humanity, but behind their eyes there was always something else. Fear. Human colonies were placed far from core worlds. Human fleets were scattered into small, symbolic units. Human ships were barred from sensitive star systems. Each restriction was explained as a matter of balance, of fairness. Yet Helen could not ignore the truth, humanity was not trusted. But trusted with what? The galaxy's illusion of safety began to fracture with the rise of the Vex Empire. Insectoid, relentless, and insatiable, the Vex spread across the outer rim. They consumed everything, resources, technology, even living beings. Confederation intelligence dismissed them as primitive. Energy weapons, they believed, could stop anything. They were wrong. The first human colony to vanish was Kepler 186. The distress signal came to Admiral Morrison on a quiet Tuesday morning. A scout ship was dispatched. What it found was silence. Empty cities. Scorched ground. No survivors. And then, one by one, other colonies went dark. The reports chilled even the most seasoned officers, thousands missing without a trace. Not killed. Taken. Lisa Carter's research gained new urgency as these disappearances spread. She pushed deeper into the archives, breaking through encrypted layers meant to keep even human scholars away. What she found were fragments, half-burned records, corrupted files. But the message between the lines was clear enough. Humanity had not joined the Confederation as equals. They had been contained. Because once, long ago, the galaxy had witnessed what humans were capable of when they fought without restraint. The truth hit Captain Ryan Brooks during the fall of New California. He arrived in orbit just as the Vex descended. Their bioship split open, raining down swarms of insectoid warriors. Energy rifles flashed across the fields, but the beams scattered harmlessly against Vex armor. The weapons that had kept the galaxy safe for millennia failed in an instant. Ryan watched in horror as families were dragged away, children screaming. He fired until his weapon overheated, accomplishing nothing. The Vex adapted, advanced, and devoured. 3 days later, the Confederation fleet arrived. Sleek ships bristling with energy weapons unleashed their full firepower. Plasma beams bright enough to blind carved into the Vex ships. But the Vex adapted again. Their organic hulls shifted, absorbing frequencies, redirecting beams. What had been unstoppable was now irrelevant. Colony after colony fell. Ambassador Helen Grant pleaded with the Council, let humans use different weapons. Projectiles. Explosives. Anything that might work. The alien representatives recoiled in horror. Such weapons were primitive, barbaric. To use them would unravel the civilized order. Better to lose colonies than to allow humans to return to their past. In those chambers, Helen understood the truth. It was not the Vex the Confederation feared most. It was humanity. Admiral Morrison's fleets fell back, retreating from system after system. Energy shields designed to block energy weapons failed against Vex biology. Their projectiles bored through barriers like acid, tearing human ships apart. Brave crews died pointlessly, sacrificed to doctrines that no longer worked. And on Titan, Lisa made the discovery that confirmed her worst suspicions. The Confederation had not invited humanity to join. They had offered a bargain: forget your weapons, forget your wars, and we will give you the stars. Because the alternative had been extermination. They had not feared what humanity was. They had feared what humanity might become. And now, with the Vex devouring human colonies and the Confederation unwilling to help, Lisa realized what others were beginning to suspect: humanity's survival would depend not on the weapons they were allowed to use, but on the ones they had been forced to forget. Viewers, pause here and consider this: if you lived in a civilization that had deliberately erased your species' past, would you want to remember? Or would forgetting be safer? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear how you choose. And if this story of humanity's silence breaking against the galaxy intrigues you, make sure to subscribe and stay with me, because what comes next will change everything. On Titan, the ice groaned under shifting tides as Dr. Lisa Carter stared at her final breakthrough. The records she had uncovered were fragmented, scattered like bones across history. Yet when pieced together, they told a story the Confederation had tried to erase. The truth was simple, terrifying, and liberating: humanity had once fought wars unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Their weapons were not polite beams of light. They were brutal instruments of matter and energy. Metal slugs fired at hypersonic speeds. Explosives that reshaped landscapes. Tactics that exploited chaos rather than avoided it. To the Confederation, these were horrors. To Lisa, they were possibilities. She whispered the words as though afraid the station itself might be listening. They feared us because they couldn't stop us. Admiral Morrison convened his senior captains aboard Luna Station. The holotable flickered with red across the outer colonies, worlds consumed by the Vex. Reports grew worse each week. Entire populations dragged away into the dark. His fleet had fought with honor. But honor did not matter when energy weapons failed. His officers knew it, even if they did not dare say it aloud. Jack Morrison broke the silence. We've been fighting the Vex on the Confederation's terms. And we've been losing. That ends today. Around the table, captains exchanged uneasy glances. To question the Confederation's laws was treason. But to obey them was suicide. In the fields of New Ohio, Captain Ryan Brooks and his surviving Marines scavenged among the ruins. Their colony had burned, their families lost. Yet from the wreckage of an old museum, Ryan's team unearthed relics, rifles of steel and wood, magazines filled with brass-tipped rounds. Primitive. Crude. Deadly. Ryan picked up one of the weapons. It was heavy, unbalanced compared to the sleek precision of energy rifles. But when he pulled the trigger, the sound thundered across the valley. Raw, defiant, unmistakably human. For the first time in weeks, Vex warriors fell. Their chitin cracked beneath the kinetic assault. Their bodies, so adaptive to energy, could not comprehend simple lead. Ryan's Marines roared with something the Confederation had long suppressed, hope. Ambassador Helen Grant delivered her reports in the council chambers, but her words fell on deaf ears. The Confederation would not, could not, allow humanity to return to its past. Your primitive weapons will destabilize the order we have built, one delegate hissed. To use them would drag the galaxy back into barbarism. Helen leaned forward, her voice calm but edged with steel. Barbarism is when families vanish into the night while you debate semantics. Barbarism is watching the Vex strip planets bare while you cling to outdated doctrines. Civilization is survival. And humanity intends to survive. The chamber erupted in outrage. Her words would be remembered. Perhaps even punished. But for the first time, Helen no longer cared. Lisa Carter transmitted her findings to Admiral Morrison under encryption. The files were incomplete, scattered across time. But there was enough to begin. Projectile physics. Explosive chemistry. Ballistics. Logistics of mass production. In silence, humanity began to remember. Deep beneath Luna Station, secret workshops stirred to life. Engineers reverse-engineered ancient blueprints, their hands trembling as they held weapons not seen in 500,000 years. Railguns were mounted on experimental hulls. Artillery shells were cast in factories hidden from Confederation oversight. The galaxy saw humanity as weak, obedient, contained. But in hidden corners, the forge of war glowed once more. Ryan Brooks' Marines became the first to test these rediscovered tools. Their makeshift arsenal was crude, mismatched rifles, explosive charges built from mining supplies. But against the Vex, it worked. For the first time, human soldiers could push them back. Not just resist, push. Ryan watched his squad plant demolition charges beneath a Vex burrow, the explosion collapsing the hive in on itself. The ground shook, the sky burned, and for the first time, victory felt possible. He knew these weapons were only the beginning. Admiral Morrison gathered his fleet. The men and women before him were tired, haunted by too many defeats. Yet when he told them the truth, that humanity had been shackled, that their true strength had been erased, they did not falter. They listened in silence. And then, as one, they nodded. We will fight, Morrison said, not as the Confederation allows us to fight, but as we must. We will fight as humans. The room trembled with applause. Meanwhile, the Confederation's intelligence agencies began to whisper of disturbing developments. Human ships had been sighted using illegal weapons. Vex casualties increased in sectors where humanity fought alone. Something had changed. The council debated sanctions. Some demanded Earth's immediate isolation. Others spoke of intervention. But beneath their words lay a deeper fear, the fear that humanity was no longer playing by their rules. Lisa Carter received a message one night as she worked in her Titan lab. The encryption was unlike anything she had seen, layers of code bending into impossible patterns. At first, she thought it was a Confederation trace. But when she decrypted it, the words were simple. You are remembering. The message was signed only with a symbol, an arc that bent into itself. No species Lisa knew claimed it. But whoever sent it, they were watching. Ryan Brooks Marines became legends on the frontier. Civilians whispered of the Iron Wolves, men and women who fought not with beams of light but with thunder and steel. Vex swarms that had once consumed colonies now hesitated at the edge of human space. For the first time, the hunters had learned fear. And with every victory, humanity remembered more. Tactics. Strategies. The art of war not as restriction, but as adaptation. Ambassador Helen Grant began building quiet alliances with species on the fringes of the Confederation, those who had suffered most from its rigid laws. Smugglers, mercenaries, even outcast fleets. She saw in them what the Council could not, that order built on fear could not endure. And as whispers of humanity's resurgence spread, some alien captains began to look toward Earth with cautious hope rather than dread. Admiral Morrison launched his first true offensive at Vega Station, a critical junction the Vex had held for months. His fleet deployed weapons the Confederation had outlawed for centuries, torpedoes packed with kinetic warheads, rail cannons that spat fire across space. The battle was brutal. The Vex adapted quickly, but not quickly enough. For every counter, humanity shifted. For every adaptation, humans improvised. When the smoke cleared, the Vex were gone. Vega was free. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Humanity had done what no one else could, they had taken back a star system. The galaxy trembled. On Titan, Lisa Carter received another message, the same impossible encryption as before. This time, the words were longer. You awaken what was buried. But know this, the Vex are not the greatest danger. They are only the beginning. Lisa stared at the screen, her heart racing. Humanity had barely begun to rediscover its strength. And already, someone, or something, was warning her of what lay beyond. Imagine being one of those Marines, holding a weapon thought barbaric, and watching it succeed where the galaxy's most advanced tools had failed. Would you feel fear, or pride? Share your thoughts in the comments, because this is the turning point where humanity stops being prey. And don't forget to subscribe and stay with me. The next chapter will reveal not just the rise of humanity, but the greater threat waiting in the dark. The war against the Vex was changing. From the shattered colonies of the frontier to the crowded streets of Earth, whispers spread like fire, humanity had turned the tide. Primitive weapons. Crude tactics. Outlawed by the Confederation, yet devastating against the Vex. At Vega Station, where Admiral Morrison's fleet had wrestled victory from certain extinction, survivors spoke in reverent tones of thunder that split the void, of kinetic fire that tore through Vex carapace like parchment. The Confederation's delegates raged, but their anger was hollow. The galaxy had seen what was once thought impossible, the predators could bleed. And humanity had made them bleed. On Titan, Dr. Lisa Carter's hands trembled as she stared at the encrypted messages that had arrived without warning. You are remembering. The Vex are not the greatest danger. She replayed the words again and again, hearing in them a weight that was both warning and invitation. Someone was watching her work. Someone who knew the fragments of history she had uncovered, the weapons, the strategies, the erased legacy of humankind. But the question that clawed at her was simple, who? Ambassador Helen Grant stood before the Confederation once more, her reputation now a knife's edge. You risk destabilizing the galaxy, one counselor spat. You've broken every law we swore to uphold, another sneered. Helen met their fury with quiet calm. No, she said. It is the Vex who destabilize your galaxy. It is your inaction that breaks your laws. Humanity has simply remembered how to survive. The chamber erupted in noise, shouts, threats, calls for censure. But beneath it all, beneath their anger, Helen saw it, fear. Not just fear of the Vex. Fear of humanity unshackled. Captain Ryan Brooks, the leader of the so-called Iron Wolves, sat in silence aboard his battered dropship. His squad cleaned their mismatched weapons in near-ritual silence, brass casings scattered across the floor like relics of an older age. Their victories had become legend. But Ryan felt the weight of something else pressing down on him, a gnawing unease he could not shake. The Vex had learned to adapt. Each battle grew harder, each adaptation faster. Humanity was winning, but only just. And in the quiet between firefights, when the stars stretched silent and endless around him, Ryan swore he felt something vast staring back. Admiral Morrison planned his next campaigns with precision. His officers were hungry, ready to seize back worlds long thought lost. Yet even as he spoke of deployments and counterattacks, Morrison's eyes lingered on the encrypted messages Lisa Carter had shared. The Vex are not the greatest danger. It haunted him. If humanity had only just clawed back its forgotten arsenal, what hope did they have against a threat even greater? But there was no time to hesitate. If humanity faltered now, the Confederation would see them crushed, and the Vex would finish the job. We strike first, Morrison told his captains. And we strike hard. Then came the first true sign. At the edge of the Kepler expanse, a listening post went silent. A Confederation patrol dispatched to investigate transmitted one final image before their signal died, a station torn apart, its debris floating in perfect symmetry. Not wreckage, not chaos, design. The image was suppressed by the Council. But Lisa Carter saw it. She compared the pattern to the fragments of data buried in Earth's forbidden archives. The shapes matched. Her hands shook as she whispered the name that history had not erased, but entombed. The architects. Long before the Vex, before even the Confederation, they had walked the stars. Builders. Shapers. Not conquerors, not destroyers, creators. Their works dotted forgotten systems, derelict structures so immense that no civilization dared approach. The Confederation called them myths. Humanity had once known better. Now, they were stirring again. Ryan Brooks' squad was deployed to one such derelict, a dead sphere hanging in the void, larger than a moon and older than memory. The Vex had been probing it, seeking something within. Ryan's team fought through swarms of chitin and steel, their rifles thundering, their charges burning through the husks. But when they reached the sphere's heart, the Vex were gone. What remained was a single chamber, humming with power. And in its center, a structure of impossible geometry, arcs and lines that seemed to bend reality itself. On its surface, etched in lines of light, was a symbol. The same symbol Lisa Carter had seen in her messages. Ryan reached out, not touching but close enough to feel the vibration. His helmet calm crackled. A voice, not human, not Vex, but something older, whispered through the static. You awaken. The cycle begins again. Then the chamber went dark. News spread quickly. The Confederation tried to suppress it, but rumors have gravity. Whispers of architect sites began to circulate. Alien captains spoke of ancient ruins stirring with power. Traders told stories of stars that blinked out without cause. Humanity's resurgence had not gone unnoticed. The galaxy trembled, but not because of humanity alone. Something older was waking. Something that had seen empires rise and fall, civilizations burn and rebuild. Something that remembered humanity not as prey, but as rivals. Admiral Morrison, Helen Grant, Lisa Carter, and Ryan Brooks, each on different fronts, found themselves bound by the same realization. Humanity's war with the Vex was only the surface of a deeper conflict. The architects had returned. And yet, there was something else. Something the galaxy did not yet understand. The Confederation saw humanity's weapons as primitive. The Vex saw them as a problem to adapt to. But the architects had shaped humanity once before. Some records suggested they had feared us. Others, that they had built us. If the latter were true, then humanity was not simply rising again. They were fulfilling a purpose written into their very bones. Lisa Carter stared at the final fragment she had uncovered, a line of text in an ancient archive, so degraded it barely survived translation. It read only this. When the architects return, so too will their greatest mistake. Her blood ran cold. The galaxy had tried to erase humanity's past. The Confederation had tried to shackle them. The Vex had tried to consume them. And now, something older still had awoken. But for the first time in 500,000 years, humanity was not afraid. They were ready. And the galaxy would tremble again. If you discovered humanity wasn't just fighting for survival, but part of a cycle written by beings older than history itself, would you fight it, or embrace it? Tell me in the comments. And make sure you subscribe, because in the next chapter, we go deeper into the architect's designs, and what it truly means for humanity to be called their mistake.